If you want to learn how to make this delicious, juicy steak au poivre, stay tuned. The first step is going to be making our French fries. So we want to start them early because it takes anywhere between 30 minutes and almost overnight for them to soak. I started by quartering my potato and then cutting it into French fry little shapes, essentially. Once they're cut, we can put them into some cold water. The reason why you want to start this process early as possible is because the potatoes have so much starch that you want to rinse that extra starch out, because if you don't, your French fries won't go crispy, and no one wants a soggy fry. Am I right? I don't like a soggy fry. So we're gonna put some water over them and let them soak. I let mine soak for probably about 2 hours, but if you can do it overnight, even better. The next step is going to be starting our mise en place. I'm doing 3 shallots thinly sliced, then 1 clove of garlic thinly sliced, a tablespoon of green peppercorns, 1 cup of white wine. I know there's debate on if you would use wine that you would drink. Just use what you have in the fridge. And 1/2 cup of brandy. Don't use anything fancy. And a cup of chicken stock that you made yourself. We're going to go over that next week. But make sure it's chicken stock that is homemade. There's a huge difference in taste. Then I'm going to use 1/2 pound of beef scraps. If your butcher is as nice as mine, they'll give it to you for free. And that's all we need to do. Not too much work. Let's get started. Put some oil, canola oil, please, not olive oil. The smoke point is different. Into a pan, get it nice and hot, and we can start searing off our beef scraps. Take your time with this step because you really want that Maillard reaction to get that nice crust on the bottom. Now, if something doesn't move on its own right away, make sure that you keep it where it is because it means it's not ready to flip. When it moves, it's ready to flip. Our last little step is pounding some black peppercorns pretty coarsely because we're going to put them on our steak and back in the sauce. See how nicely that's rendering its fat? Once that's done, put them on a plate. You don't have to do this step, but I find it's easier to cook the shallots and the rest of our veg. Once you drained off the fat, add the shallots, the green peppercorns, and some of the black peppercorns, not all of them. Stir to combine and mix it with all the rest of the leftover fat. It's going to be so delicious, and let that go for another couple of minutes. At this point, I find that it's easier to add the beef scraps back in because if we added them in while we were trying to cook our shallots and our peppercorns, it would be in the way and I think the shallots would burn. At this point, turn off the heat and now we can add our wine and our brandy. Turn off the heat for safety purposes. You never know if something's going to blow up in your face. And then we can start to scrape the bottom of the pan to get all the fond from the beef scraps into the sauce. Oh, delicious. From there, we can let this hang out, simmer for about 30 minutes while we prepare the rest of our meal. Just before the sauce is finished, get some heavy cream in another saucepan, nice and hot, and then we're going to strain the contents of our beef mixture directly into the heavy cream. And make sure you press out every last ounce of juice. That stuff is just gold dust. I accidentally added a little too much chicken stock, so I reduced it a little bit more. Once that's finished, we can begin our first fry on our French fries. Get a nice Dutch oven or a heavy bottom pan, fit it with a thermometer, please, a thermometer, and add a bunch of oil in there. Once that's done, you need to dry off the French fries because the last thing we want is something with water going into something with oil. Now it's about time to
rev up those fryers, because I am sure hungry.
For the first fry, we want to go in at about 350 degrees. That's why it's so important to have a thermometer because it's hard to know the difference between 325 and 350, 375 and 325. Just get a thermometer, drop them in, and they probably need around 5 minutes at this stage just to cook on the inside. The oil temperature might drop too, so you want to just make sure that it's at a constant 350. Once they're about golden brown, not too crispy, and definitely not all the way cooked, take them out. At this point, the fries are half cooked, and we're going to crank up the temperature to 375 later to cook them all the way. Now let's start our steak. I got a filet mignon because that's what I like, but you get whatever steak you like. It's up to you. The most important part, like our fries, make sure that the steak is extra bone dry because we want to make sure we get a good sear on it. If it has any moisture on it, that won't happen. In terms of seasoning, I'm going to put our coarsely cracked black peppercorns on there and a fair amount of salt. A lot of salt and a lot of pepper. Because if you don't, it'll come out bland. And nobody wants bland food. I don't think anyone ever said, just give it to me bland. It looks like a lot of seasoning because frankly, it is a lot of seasoning, but that's okay. Steak is like chicken. It's bland, so you want to make sure you give it as much flavor as possible, especially a filet mignon where there's not a lot of fat to help it out. The way I like to look at it is if I can visibly see the seasoning, the salt and the pepper, it's enough seasoning. If you can't see it, you need to add a little bit more. To set a pan to sizzling hot and add some canola oil, not olive oil, please. Canola oil, smoke point. And we're going to lay the steak in and cook it for 3 minutes on one side and then 3 minutes on the other side till we get a nice golden crust. That looks absolutely stunning. Perfect. So now we're going to lay it down, give it another 3 minutes, and we're going to pop it into a 450-degree oven. I like my steaks medium rare, so for that, it's 7 minutes. Rare, give it 6. If you like it closer to medium, give it 8 to 9 minutes. Now, doesn't that look absolutely stupendous? Most important thing, let it rest for at least 10 minutes. Now, we're going to do our fries one more time. Crank up the heat to 375 and cook them for maybe 2 minutes. This is a pretty quick step. And look how golden brown and beautiful they came out. Put them in a bowl and season them quickly after they come out while they're nice and hot so the salt can stick to the fries. Shake them around, and now it's time for our plate up. First, let's place our perfectly rested steak 10 minutes onto the plate. A nice smattering of fries, perfectly salted, and our beautiful peppercorn sauce that we strained earlier is reduced, and doesn't that look absolutely beautiful? The cook on this is exactly what I wanted, a perfect medium rare, 8 minutes in the oven, that's all you need. And now let's get down to business and taste. The steak was juicy, it was peppery, just the right amount of salt, absolutely divine. French fries were nice and crispy from that double fry. That's exactly what you want to do every time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.